Fischer. I don't know some of you. I was born Jeanette Fischer. Daddy was Italian, Mommy was German. And my father was in the service when I was born. I'm told I lived in Virginia for a while, but I don't really remember. I was too young. Before my parents bought the house in Center Reach, I lived in St. James and Westbury with the grandparents. And then in Center Reach in 1956, they bought the house. I think I was born with a red crayon in my hand. I always colored from a little kid up. I had coloring books galore, the little, you dip the brush in the water and smear over the dots and the color would appear. I always wondered how they did that.
Magic.
Tracing books and everything, I always loved to draw since I was a kid. Some of you might remember Learn to Draw with John Nagin on TV. 7 o'clock in the morning, I was up there with the TV so low you could hardly hear it, so I wouldn't wake anybody up, and I would sit with the book and just draw and draw. I loved it. In school, I always was doing bulletin boards and things like that. So as I got older, and high school said you have to decide what you want to do. So I said to my father, I would like to go to school for commercial art. And he said to me, commercial art? All the good jobs are in the city, and the city is no place for a lady. You'll take business. So that's what I did. I didn't go to school at first after high school. It was a semester later in the spring. I went to Suffolk. And I took business, which was just about everything I had learned in high school. And I was bored, and I said, if I'm working this hard, somebody should be paying me. But little did I know the world was changing anyway. I got married, I was almost 24, and moved to Center Riches, where I'm still living today. My husband passed away after 21 years of marriage. And we didn't have kids, so I didn't have to worry like Barbara did. But still, my life was in a spin and I didn't know what to do. Anyway, bouncing back from all of that, here I am today. So, before I was out of high school, I was still a kid. Remember these little talent test booklets?
Oh, draw me.
Draw me. So I drew. And I thought I did pretty good. And the thing came back to me with a C on it, but I was still qualified. But I never followed up with any of this. I just kept this little booklet because I liked it. One of the draw me's, this little tiny schnauzer back here, you probably can't see from there. So I took this little thing and I drew the schnauzer.
Oh, wow.
But I happen to have a set of oil pastels, which I decided to fix the background up a little bit. And I colored that in, and I think the paint I used was those little tester's jars for models. And that's enamels. So that's that one. When I graduated high school, my parents bought me a wooden art box with about a dozen different paints, a bunch of brushes and everything that I would need to get started. So I started. And before I had lessons, on the back of the Reader's Digest were pictures, and I took this one, which I loved, and I did this. Before I had any kind of professional training, which I loved. So then, 2 years after high school, in St. James, there was an art gallery, and I signed up for some lessons. I can't find the book at home that showed everything I did when you had to take 6 weeks of drawing before she would even let you paint. But then when I did start painting, we had to do 4 still lifes. So this is one. She did help me a little bit on this because I was new at it. But each one was getting a little better. There's another one. And another one. And another one. And then after that, after 4 still lifes, we had to do some flowers. And so that would be this one over here. Now this particular teacher taught us from greeting cards or photographs, whatever. I don't have the photograph for this anymore, but I had worked very hard on making the edges of these daisies stand up. And when I came home with this and it was finally finished, my father was so excited he wanted to slip it into a frame, just a generic frame, it wasn't this one. And he didn't tack it in or anything, and he hung it on the wall, he wanted to see, and the painting slipped out. And all of the beautiful white edges of the daisies went blue. And I was so upset. But he says, oh, you'll fix it. And I'm like, oh. So I sat very carefully with the turpentine on a clean brush, getting rid of all the white marks that didn't belong where they were. And once again, put the edges on all the daisies. And it was, worked out nice. And he was very proud of this. Let's see, what else? Oh, then we did something we wanted to choose. So I chose this bird in the cherry blossoms. And pretty good. She helped me a lot with the bird because I couldn't get that. But all of those little flowers, the insides, if you look at it later, very intricate. Yes.
Where were you taking the lessons, Jeanette?
St. James Art Gallery on Main Street. It's not there anymore, near the railroad track on the lake.
This oil?
All oil, yeah. I did the inside of the flowers with a toothpick.
Wow.
Because I didn't have a brush that had 3 hair in it. So I like this one too. That came out good. Funny, looking in my art box, I happened to find some receipts for art lessons, 1975. 4 lessons, $12. They were 2 or 2.5 hours a piece. And I have a bunch of the receipts, all from that back then, 1975. I took the lessons from 72 to the end of 75. I was getting married in 76, and I figured that $12 or $15 would go to pay a bill. Before I had left there, I started this but never finished it. So that's that. Then getting married. I didn't really have the time or the money to take lessons anymore, and although I like to do all of that stuff, I resorted to doing things like painting flower pots, playing with my nieces and nephews, teaching them to paint the flower pots. We always had fun. Crafts was another thing, knitting, crocheting, and the like. By 3rd grade, I was sewing and knitting, like you said. And that was a lot of fun too. I would embroider different designs on the sweaters that I would knit, and it was a lot of fun then. My husband and I had opened a gas station up in Medford, a gas station repair shop where I also worked. I managed the gas half and he managed the repair shop half. And talk about working 8 days a week. That was a lot of work. Taught me a lot, and so for 5 years that's what we did. When we sold it in 1990, I needed some therapy that I couldn't pay for, so I resorted to cleaning up the yard and very diligently bringing my yard to look like a nice little park. And then when that was all done, I said, now I need something else to do, so I signed up for some adult ed classes. And I went for drawing because I needed to get back to that. And then in the springtime I took some watercolor and pastel and that. So, this is just a couple things that I had done around that same time, just basic. Crocus, out a window. And this is practice pieces. This was a little bit more with a perspective thing. Looking at it now, I can see a few things that are wrong, but that's okay. Michelle. It's about the only portrait I ever did. But this one I love. This one I thought came out really nice. I like that. More practice. This one I actually did outside in my yard. And we had an exercise in the drawing class to take pictures. And so the photographs are there, the hand and the glass, and just put it together. You will like that, the umbrella. Although looking at it, I see it is not straight. That's okay. That was then. Went to the beach, draw some guy laying on his blanket there. Waterfall. More whatever. Yeah, a lot. I like drawing. Now, who's this?
Me.
It's Matlock. And every time the commercial would come on, I had about 5 seconds to look at another part of his face and draw it while the commercial was on. So, more just point perspective. More. Comedy, the snowman sneezed and fell apart. I painted that on a shirt, which I don't have anymore. Moving on with the pastels, he taught us this little bit, some clouds. This one I like. This was a still life set up in front of us that we had to do. Of course, the page isn't big enough, or the painting's too big for the page, whatever you want to say. But either way, I had fun doing that one. And this one, they have a nice box. And just a little practice thing. Berry. And this was, you remember Joe, he went to college for a semester, and this was one of his assignments. And I said, well, I want to do it too. And it was just to make a newspaper look like it had writing on it, but you still can't see it because you're too far away. So even if you come up close, you still can't see it because it don't say anything. But it looks like it does. Little one of these. And that's that for that book. Also in the watercolor class, there's a lot of different practice pieces. This is more of a dry brush. A little bit of the smooth and the pointillism. He wanted us to mix that up. This is my my idea of funny. This is a bulb garden. And the leaves are little plugs. And this is still breathing. Another portrait. Just arranged it. He says, oh, I want you to do a still life. And he had things arranged. We could set it up any way we want. So no matter how he set it up, Larry, I didn't like it. So I just put it all together this way. So, yeah. This was in West Hampton. This was a study, I think I took a watercolor class at the Bellport Middle School or whatever, there by the bank. That, one of these. So these are all watercolor, which I also liked working with. Started this, never really finished it. This is in my backyard. It was a very, very solemn sunrise in the morning, just a touch of mist and that, and I went and photographed it, and I wanted to try and paint it a little bit. Didn't finish it, but that's as far as I got, and that's okay. And then the practice pieces. And this one was set up in front of us to do, with a basket and everything in the watercolor. And that was a little bit of a challenge with all the wicker, but it was fun. I liked it. And then one more I had done in the watercolor class from a photograph, and it didn't look like anything while I was sitting close till I got up and walked away. It's kind of looking up the hill a little bit, and the nice Arizona sunset.
Yeah.
And the saguaro cactus. So,
You want to bite me your ears?
yeah.
The dog?
Yeah, so. This was from the drawing class also that I had taken after we sold the gas station. He wanted a portrait. I don't know how to do portraits really to make them look like anything, so I thought I was being funny. And I just did this. And he liked it, and I'm like, stop already. So, that, but then also with the pencil, and this was in the fall.
Oh, that's beautiful.
This was set up in front of us to do.
Very nice. Yeah.
I like that. And then this one is my favorite one. Of course, it would be on newsprint, right? It's Halloween.
Oh.
It's my spooky house.
Frame those, definitely frame those.
Yeah, really?
Definitely.
Well, thank you. So, the part I liked with this whole thing, outside of the fact it's a Victorian house, which is my favorite, rickety or not, I enjoy doing the ghosts because you're not really drawing ghosts. You're just drawing an edge, and then you go with that gummy eraser and just go over it to take out everything behind it. And that was interesting and a lot of fun.
It's like glass.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that in this whole big book. So, let's see. Oops, forgot one. When my husband and I bought the gas station, we met one of the regular customers there. His name was Joe Riccardi. He kind of came with the woodwork. The owner told us, Joe stops in every day, he has coffee, reads the newspaper, talks to you for a while, and then he's on his merry way. So, how do you do? Nice to see you. Well, we became the best of friends. He and my husband got along. He and my in-laws got along. He and my mother got along. He got along with everybody. So he bought me, for my birthday one year, 6 lessons with Larry. And 2 things I had done and never finished, but this is one of them. Larry still knows. That's the infamous teapot he made us draw, even when I took lessons later on. So that was fun. After we sold the gas station, I kind of gave up on that for a little bit. Oh, let me go back one more thing. With the watercolor, when I took the lessons afterwards, he gave me homework. I said, why are you giving me homework? This is not a homework class. He said, because you're good and I want you to do something for me. So I had to choose a picture from what he had there, and I went home that night after class, 9 o'clock, 9:30. I started this about 10 o'clock at night and finished it up at 1 in the morning. And this is what I did.
Wow, nice.
This is the cherry blossoms at the Potomac River. Taking my artistic license. There were about 24 people in this picture. I said, no. So, because I don't really do people, I said, well, how hard can a coat and a pair of pants be? So I put one in there. And gave him a camera, he's happy. And to take up the empty space, I put in the little bench. And between the trees over there, you were able to see the Jefferson Memorial, which I also said, no. So when I brought this in, he says, oh my God, you're going to frame that, aren't you? And I says, oh, I don't know. He said, yes, you should frame it. So I did. And he was happy. I did my homework.
Did you get an A?
Well, yeah, but there was no grades to be given, but yeah. So that was that. Also, that tree that's up there. So you're gonna have to backtrack. This is when I took the lessons at the St. James Art Gallery, one of the trees. Now, I know usually we don't show pictures of our work, but I'm going to take you behind the scenes now. So, this is the postcard, the photograph, the greeting card, and that's the tree. So, you know, looking at it now, I would have textured that up a little bit more and what have you there, but that's that, so I like that one too. Also at the St. James Gallery, I did these. Somebody had sent me a belated birthday card, and I liked it so much I decided I was going to paint it. And again, I brought the card to show you. This is that. So sorry I missed your birthday. Meant to whip up something special to commemorate your day, but had a little trouble. Happy birthday anyway.
Really nice.
Isn't that cute?
So when, this was before I was married, and the older women in the group, they were all retired, and they sit and look at me, oh how cute, where are you going to put those? I said, when I get a kitchen, I'll hang it up there. So, and they're still hanging in my kitchen today. I like them, so. Okay, so now one more thing. This painting is a pastel, but this has a very strong, unique thing about it. This was a work in monochromatic color. So we had to choose a piece of paper in whatever color we wanted to do, and I chose blue. And then all the pastels, of course, were different shades of blue. The object was to utilize the paper as part of the painting, the coloring. So, as you see, it is no longer monochromatic because while it was hanging up in my living room and the sun is shining, the paper began to fade. So it went from blue to pale green, and now it's gold. So, yeah, so...
Is that newsprint?
It's construction paper.
Yeah. Now, if you could perfect that technique, you have
Wouldn't
a
that
market
be
for
something?
some unusual.
It would.
It is.
So because I had used the paper in the color of the mug and the ceramic pot,
Wait, the paper was yellow or the
the
paper?
paper was blue.
Blue.
The paper was blue, the pastels all were shades of blue,
Wow.
from light to dark.
Oh, it looked like it was the paper coming through.
It is, yeah, because I had to utilize the color of the paper within the painting.
You have a buildup of pastel everywhere else where it's not faded,
Yeah,
and that protected it. So
yeah, exactly. So, but just the way I had used the paper, and now it all faded, it's just even just as nice as it was back then. You know?
It's alive.
Yeah, you would never, yeah, it's alive. Yes, I'm in the living room one day looking at it, I said, gee, it's looking a little green, you know, and I still didn't get what was happening. So, as I left it, I said, gee, it's looking really light green. Now it's gold. I don't know what it will be next time, but, you know, so.
How many years did it take for that to happen?
Well, this I did in about 1990. So the last 20 years, it went from blue to green to pale green to gold. That's construction. So, okay, I think that's everything for that now. Now, after I sold the gas station, finally, I went to painting some shirts. Figured I could sell and make some money, and all is good. Well, yeah, I did make some money at it, but not, you know, it was more fun than money. But anyway, my mother-in-law lived in a 55 and older community, and they were looking for something different to do on craft day, and she had worn some shirts that I painted, so they all wanted to know how to paint a shirt. So setting that all up and whatnot, I went and I figured, well, gee, you know, anybody ever paint before? No, okay. So I gave everybody some sheets of paper. I had basic brushes, and I taught them to make leaves using parentheses, and I taught them to make little wildflowers using the side of the brush and just roll it like so. And they thought that was the greatest thing, but they were all scared. Now they're doing it on paper, but now they have to do it on a shirt. But that's okay. I had about 10 women and 10 totally different designs. I had mine up on the front, and this is what I taught them to do. One of these. It was simple. They understood what to do. They were very happy to see that parentheses made leaves and long strokes. But this one is mine, which I don't wear anymore. But so that's what they did. This is another one I painted, and using buttons as flowers. See? And this next one I really like, because I should have wore this yesterday. Yeah.
What was yesterday?
Yesterday was a bad day at work. I used to wear this a lot. I also worked at the IRS and I had the midnight shift. So this fell into place really well. And the thing is, I didn't take my time to do perfected drawings on shirts because nobody's going to pay the price for it. So it was just quick, simple, and there it is.
That's nice.
And something else I always did was put something on the sleeve or the back, shoulder somewhere. So it matched, but that was kind of my little trademark thing. So that's that.
What kind of paints do you use for that?
That was fabric paint. They're washable, they stretch a little bit. This one I liked. And I used to look in magazines for ideas. The campfire shirt. Toasted.
I like that, toasted.
Very cute. That's cute.
And then this one I had done, it's a big stain on it, that don't matter. But this was just like a beautiful spring garden.
Look, this sleeve, yes, the hearts.
Hearts on the sleeves and the little thing on the back on the shoulder,
Nice.
you know. And so a lot of people liked the shirts like this. I had done different kinds, but you know, I sold a couple of them. And so that's that. Then, after all of that, it took me a while because since the shirts, oh, and here's a book if you want to look at some of the other shirts that I've done. After the shirt thing, my husband had passed away, and like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do, what I was going to do, where I was going to be or go or whatever. And at that time, Joe was a comfort to me and a close friend. And so, even then going through his illnesses, I said to him, we'll take lessons with Larry, as soon as you get better, we'll go, okay. So as you know, that didn't happen, and Larry always looked after me, kept after me, you know, he says, oh, I'm gonna start teaching in the spring and that. I'm like, oh, I don't know, Larry. But in the fall, he made me go. He took out the gun and said, you're going. So he set up a still life, and this was a lot of fun. Through tears, I painted this, my first painting after about, what, 15 years? And he had, you had a red pear and it went rotten? He brought the green pear in, and he had it twisted. It was to be foreshortened, and I just didn't get it right away, so I said, can I see that pear? So I held the pear in my hand sideways while I painted it on the canvas, and that's how that came to be. Yeah, I like that, and you know, he was tough on me. He told me, darken this, lighten that, do that, and so there it is.
Good job.
So I like that, yeah, thank you.
Good teacher.
I didn't bring too much of my recent work because a lot of you had seen it, but this one now, I wanted to tell you the story behind all of this and give you the behind the scenes. My sister lived way upstate, near Watertown, and we went up to visit them for Thanksgiving. And if you know anything about Watertown, being in the snow belt, it's cold up there. So my husband and I decided we were going to take a ride past Watertown and go to Cape Vincent, whatever it is there on the edge of the lake, Lake Ontario. In going, you have to drive through dairy farms, and I, out of the corner of my eye, caught this vision. And I said, oh my goodness. He said, why are you stopping the car? So this is what I saw. And I took the photograph, and it came out so beautifully. I said to him, one day I'm going to paint that. Well, he never seen it, but there's the photograph.
Oh, wow, very nice.
I also should tell you, it was 8 below zero this day. And I got out of the car, and there was a guardrail right in the front, and snow, and I said to him, hold me, I gotta step over the guardrail to get the picture without all the foreground stuff in it. And that's what that was. So I painted this in Larry's class also. And this one, I love this one. It's just so, you can feel the cold in it, you know. So. And then last but not least, I have these beauties over here. I really like these. I also did these in Larry's class. And I brought the picture to show you also. My pastor went to California, and this is Newport Beach. When I saw the picture, I asked him if I could have it. And so off to class I go, and I decide I want to paint this. And Larry said, okay. So this one is the one I had done first. And I was just laying it in color, blocking it all in, round for the sun. It wasn't as smooth as it is now. And it was looking kind of abstract. And I said to him, I don't know, Larry, I kind of like it just the way it is. And he's laughing and laughing. He says, no, you got to finish it. I says, yeah, I know. I said, but I really like what's happening here. So he said to me, don't like it too much because you're not going to put in the palm trees. So I said, I'll get another canvas and I'll put the palm trees in for you. So that night, which was a Monday, I went home, sat up, and I worked diligently at this, maybe another 3-4 hours. The whole thing took me 6 hours, but instead of leaving it in its abstract, I smoothed it out, as you see, everything right there. So the next night was the meeting at Wet Paints with the critique. So he sat down next to me and I said, Larry, I finished the painting. And he's laughing. I said, no, I didn't. I don't know what kind of look he had on his face. So he liked it. And then the next Monday night when I went to class, I had brought that canvas up to this. And something else he said to me is, these colors are not real, because when the camera photographs into the sun, it darkens everything around it. He said you have to make it sunset colors. Now, this is the photograph, and I put all the colors in out of my head on that other canvas. I put the palm trees. I had one reference from my pastor so that I could see how to do this, a nice light one. And then that's what came of it. So that took me 6 hours. That took me about 20. Each tree took me 2 hours to do. But if you look at that closely, you'll see in the heads of the palm trees all the little tiny strokes. I mixed my own black. So there's black to the green in there and all the little tips for the reflective light. And I call these my fraternal twins. Because there's two from one photograph, and that's that.
Very nice, beautiful.
So that's everything.
Great work.
No, that's great that you went with Larry
Yeah.
and left St. James.
Yeah, well, yeah, they sold it in St. James, and they went to Massachusetts.
Yeah, but St. James was postcards.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, the new woman that bought the gallery was a teacher. She was an artist, but she was more into making the silver jewelry, and I could see things were slowly changing, and I didn't really like her teaching technique. So between that and getting married soon, I decided that was it. You know, cut the tie while it's new and be done with it. So
Yeah, but this is great.
thank you.
Beautiful.
I think you should have, and I think you should have brought your foggy seascape, even though we've all seen it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's striking.
Thank you. That was nice. Actually, my friend John here is a photographer. And how that painting came to be, Misty Waters. I took him down to the dock at Bellport after we had stopped at Luann's, and he photographs in black and white. That's what he likes. So he had never been there, and it was a day in May, and the fog was billowing in like tonight. And he just started snapping. He says, I'm going to take a few shots for practice. I don't know what's going to come out. So about a week later, he came and showed them to me, and he was not impressed. He says, oh, these aren't any good and that, but I'm looking at them, see, from an artist's point of view, not a photographer's point of view. And so I said, you're going to throw these away? I'd like to have some if you don't mind. So, okay, and I took them and I put all 5 of them up. I looked at 5 that I chose, 5, and what I wanted out of each one. And then I set it up on a piece of foam core on my easel and decided which piece. I looked at it for a day, studied it, collected my thoughts, and then slowly began to take the piece from each photograph to make that one painting. The whole thing took me about 4 hours. 3 hours one day, and then an hour to put that little stamp on it. Because I didn't want to do it wrong, because you can't really fix that background when it's mixed and blended on the canvas, you know. So,
That's your piece, I don't know whether it's the right resistance or something.
yeah, maybe. Because I won the ribbon
That's the
for it,
one.
I was happy
That's
about that.
That's a
You
beauty.
know, so when he came over about a week after that, I showed that to him. He was like, oh, that looks nice. And then he saw his photographs. He didn't know what to say, the whole thing. But he liked it, and we titled it Misty Waters, and actually I gave that painting to him for helping me do things at my house. So that's kind of like, you know, so, but I still have it. I said to him, I'm not done looking at it yet. So, yeah, but thank you for for asking about that. That makes me feel good that it left an impression. You know, so one thought to leave you with is somebody once told a story about how somebody was telling an artist they didn't like that work at all. And the artist was very pleased and cordial and whatnot. So the person approached the artist and said, well, that person said they didn't like your work. How come you're happy? They said, the artist's job is to move you to one side of the scale or the other. Whether you like it or you don't like it is insignificant. So, when you paint, you draw, you sketch, whatever, do it so you move people. And that's it.
Very
I just want to say that after Joe passed away, Jeanette and Joe at one point in time, before he passed away, were engaged to be married.
Yeah.
And I got to know Jeanette through Joe. And everybody has fond memories of Joe. And many of us, I think, reached out to Jeanette at that point and encouraged her to join the group and moving forward. I think it's been an important part of her life.
Yes, very much so. And I didn't want to say any of that because I
It would be
couldn't
so
say it without the tears.
Oh, that's all right.
You know, but yes, and I've belonged to the group now, I guess about 5 years or so.
Yeah.
5 maybe, about that. And really, if it wasn't for your classes, Larry, I probably would have thrown in the towel. So I'm happy that you did have the classes.
The club
And that I did join the club. Well, you know, you come here when you don't have anything to bring, you kind of feel like, what am I doing here? So, when you started the classes and you really made me get back to doing something that I really enjoy, it meant something to me, and just seeing everybody here all the time, week after week after month, it's fun. It's fun, and it's a part of me. So.
And he must be so proud of you.
Yeah, don't
Like
do
that.
that. Don't do that. Yeah. Well, I have his paintings at my house. And I have the one, he took the ribbon from South Bay for that abstract that he did.
Yeah.
And I have that hanging up in my hallway, and I have so much of his stuff, it's like, what do I do with all of this, So, but it's there, it's there. So,
You were good to,
we're good for each other.
yeah, he was so happy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so. Time for the hug. Thank you.
It's a girl thing.
It's a